It's time to start preparing for life without star transfer running back Russell Faison now, not later. I tell you why. Next, Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler, and hope everyone's having a fantastic start to their Thursday morning. We have a great show for you today, and before we get started, I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode brought to you by our friends at the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, all capital letters, for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so the news today, and if you've been following along with this drama, it's not anything that is at the fault of this kid and this potential player, a player that a lot of people are really excited for with a lot of good reason. Russell Faison, the transfer portal running back from Utah State that South Carolina, Shane Beamer and company got in the December window, already appeared in the spring game, has been with the program since the start of the spring semester, has been going through offseason workouts, by all means, fully expected to be a part of the 2025 team. Well, it is May 8th as I'm recording this, and he still has not been approved by the NCAA. The reason why, I don't know if I have a valid argument or understanding, to be honest, as to why. He is one of the players that is seeking an extra year of eligibility because he played at a junior college. But here's the deal. It's a kid that enrolled in 2019 out of college or out of high school, did not play before. He sat out of football in 2020 and 2021. He gray shirted at Marshall in 2019. He played 1 year of junior college ball in 2022, and then he played for 2 seasons at Utah State. He's been in college for a while. Like enrolling in 2019 and it being 2025, that does seem like you're kind of run of the mill. Like, oh, this kid is maybe it's a super senior, a 6-year senior, one of the COVID seniors that we've seen over the past couple of years. Fine, but that's not the case. In this case, he basically took 2 years off to figure out whatever he wanted to do. Never played his first year out of high school. So for his first 3 years since he enrolled in 2019 in college, he didn't play at all. Gray shirted 1 year, then he came back in 2022. So if you look at it from a logical standpoint, which is something the NCAA never seems to do, he basically started his college career in 2022 at a junior college and then played 2 years at Utah State. 3 years of college eligibility should mean he has at least 1 year left. That is what South Carolina and he are petitioning. Now, like I said, it is May 8th. You are in the absolute middle of the offseason. The portal is, I'm assuming, closed. I don't know at this point. Does anyone know? But your roster and your, not depth chart yet, because you have to go to fall camp, obviously, but your roster is basically set, and you assume you know what you have going into fall camp. By all means, you would expect Russell Faison to be a part of that. But the NCAA, in all of their ridiculousness, still has not decided to make him eligible or give an announcement or a ruling either way. I said this at the top of the show. Shane Beamer is a smarter person than I am. Everyone on this staff is a smarter person than I am. That being said, you have to start at least preparing for the NCAA to do the wrong thing. And that's the only way I know how to phrase it. Because how many times have we seen the NCAA make the right decision on something? It's a lot less than we've seen them make the wrong decision, and that is for sure. Putting your trust in the NCAA does not seem like a very wise decision, whether it be a player, coach, team, anyone, because they have shown time and time again they will fail you, and they will fail at their job. I'm hoping that doesn't happen because, by all means, again, like this seems like a no-brainer. Like I didn't think it would be an issue at all, let alone this far into the offseason. Now, what happened today is Russell Faison announced via Twitter that he was going to, or he had hired a lawyer to he hasn't sued the NCAA yet. That's a common misconception so far, but he hired a NIL lawyer named Darren Heitner. You guys may know, that may sound familiar to you. That's because earlier in the spring, Heitner is he's the guy that basically sought for another year for, what's his name? Miles Stute from the basketball team, because, like even more of a reason to be able to get a, even more of a reason that should have been a slam dunk in the eyes of anyone with a brain. But of course, the NCAA being the NCAA, they balked at this, and he had to end up intervening. And ultimately, he was able to ensure that Stute got another year of eligibility, and they did the right thing. In his scenario, they went after the NCAA because he had a blood clot diagnosis that caused him to miss more than half of last year's season. Immediately, or almost immediately, the NCAA folded and decided that he should have been eligible from the medical issue. This is not a medical issue by any means, but hiring Heitner is a really, really good move. One, from Faison, and then two, for any athlete looking to go toe-to-toe with the NCAA. Because, again, this is not a situation where it's like, here's all the evidence, here's all the facts of the case, here's all of the reasons why any logical person would look at this and say, yep, got it, you're good to go. You're dealing with the NCAA. In this case, I fully expect him to be eligible, or hopefully in the next week or so we get an answer. But again, you have to start preparing for the NCAA to do the wrong thing now. And that is because, again, whether it's anyone's fault and it really is to no fault of Faison's own, but you cannot put your trust that the NCAA is going to ever make the right decision. In Faison's case, it's not necessarily similar to Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia is the first of the junior college players that kind of went through this situation, decided that he was going to sue the NCAA. That hasn't happened yet. I would imagine if this appeal is not heard, that would be the next step. Going back to Heitner. Heitner is a phenomenal lawyer, especially in terms of NIL stuff. Teaches NIL law at the University of Miami. Has represented a ton of athletes, has his own website, writes a weekly newsletter. And again, he's coming off of a decision where he was able to get an extra year of eligibility for a player in this athletic department just for the basketball team. I don't know if it's going to end up being the thing that fixes the situation. Ultimately, I do think that he is going to suit up and play for South Carolina next year. It would make zero sense to me and anyone else for him not to. But again, in terms of managing expectations going into next year, you have to be prepared for it. When we come back, I will explain why this situation is a massive deal for the future of the 2025 team, not just for the future of NCAA student athletes, but for South Carolina in 2025 specifically. He may be one of the most important pieces they have to have coming back. All right, before we go to break, I do want to give a quick shout out once again to our friends at the Game Time app. There is nothing quite like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Now, it doesn't have to only be a trip to the NBA playoffs. You could also use Game Time for anything, whether it's concerts, theater, comedy shows, or even baseball games as well. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down. I told you this before, and it's one of the best features. Prices on the app actually go down as the game gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why I use Game Time. First off, the last-minute deals, saving you up to 60% right beforehand, and more than anything, the all-in pricing and convenience, so I know exactly what I'm spending before I ever hit buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege, all capital letters, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we'll be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks. All right, we're back. Let's get back into this. And here's the thing. I've tried to not be overly aggressive in my reaction just because it's like at this point, again, like I don't know what else you should expect from the NCAA. This is the kind of crap they do all the time, constantly. If you hear what Shane Beamer's had to say, his frustration is palpable and understood, and very warranted. I mean, again, they have had this paperwork in correctly since, I believe, January of this year. Now, again, just because you have done all the correct steps and process to get through, to get the decision that should have already been made and the correct decision, again, that should have already been made with the NCAA, it does not mean it's going to happen. Exactly. The exact words from Shane Beamer said, "It's getting frustrating to be completely frank. The fact the NCAA has had everything they've needed from us since January and we don't have an answer is frankly disappointing. We gave them everything they needed back in January. They asked for more, so we gave them what they needed then. They asked for more again. We gave them what they needed then. We've been in contact with other schools he was at to get stuff from them that they needed. Again, I know they have a lot on their plate, but the fact that we're now in the middle of May and still don't have an answer, we just went through a portal window where we didn't add a running back, but we didn't know if we will have an answer. That's when you start talking about planning for 2025. This is the thing I think that frustrates coaches more than anything. I talked about this on an episode a couple weeks back, which is all the changes for the most part are understood, and coaches are dealing with them as much as they can. But not being able to go into summer and this beginning of fall camp after the spring, like your spring season and your 15 practices and your spring game or whatever you have in place of it, the fact that you aren't able to still get a concrete look and understanding of what is going to be on your roster, who's going to be on your roster, and any other needs you're going to need to add is insane. And that's the problem, again, with this, in addition to several other things that are a problem with this. I don't know. I've transferred schools before. I don't know what could have been the massive holdup. I don't know if it's because it was a junior college thing. But again, he only played 1 year at junior college. It couldn't be a credit thing because academically they would have already made this work. But for the NCAA to see somebody that has already been in only 3 seasons, it's not like we're trying to lop off one of the extra years. Diego Pavia, his entire ordeal was basically he had 2 years of junior college, or at least 1 year of junior college, that he wanted to basically say those don't count. And they gave it to him. Now he had to sue them for that to happen. We've also seen situations where players have tried to sue the NCAA and it didn't work. I don't know if that's the next step. It probably is from like a drastic measurement standpoint, but like this should not have taken this long. This is not a scenario where he's already played for 5 years and you're trying to get him 1 more year because he played in only 3 games one season. He's only played in 3 games in his collegiate career. Gray shirting just means that he came in the mid-year and participated in workouts. It doesn't mean that he played. So my confusion is obviously pretty high. But again, where I go with this is, at the very least, you need to prepare for life without him. I hope that's not the case, because that kid is a phenomenal addition, a really good running back. And I say this all the time. One of the things this staff does best is identify and evaluate talent, recruit it, and then develop it. This is a former 3-star kid. They found him in a group of 5 school. He is a 4-star out of the portal, but the number 69 overall player in the country and the number 5 running back in this year's or out of the portal this year, according to according to On3. By all means, he was supposed to be a very big addition to this year's roster. If you don't have him, this is what you are potentially losing. All right, so the concern is not necessarily what the production you would potentially be getting and then losing. I mean, it is, but it's a 6 foot, 220-pound running back that's a grown man. You talk about how long he's been in college already. And also from a production standpoint, he's already put up 1,100 yards a season ago. A guy that was able to not just be I think a lot of people had him kind of viewed as like not a scat back, but more of like a slash type guy. But by all means, he is built to run between the tackles, and you love what he's already done at the collegiate level. But here's what your concern is: you have a total of 315 snaps returning at the running back position. When you look at the production you lost, obviously with Rocket Sanders last season, Rocket Sanders by himself, he accounted for 36.8% of the total rushing yards on this team. 36.8%. That doesn't include Lenore's. When you look at what his role and how much he accounted for in terms of like the running back production from actual running backs, he made up 58.9% of the total running back rushing yards, 53.2% of the total running back rushing attempts. And you look at what Lenore's had to do for most of the end of the regular season, some of that by design, but like especially when Rocket Sanders is hurt, you're talking about Lenore's having to run. He had at least 13 rush attempts in the last 8 regular season games each. In every single game, he had at least 13. He only had 11 in the bowl game, but that's coming off an injury. But that was a part of the offense, and it will be a part of the offense again. And now running the football with your quarterback, with Lenore Sellers, is clearly going to be a part of the offense. It's something Mike Shula wants to do as a new coordinator because they've had success with it, and it's part of their identity. That being said, this cannot be a situation where it's a 2010 Cam Newton thing, regardless of how physically talented he is and how big he is and how much of a punishment he can take, like running the football and deliver. You cannot risk your everything player getting injured because of running the football. You need to make sure you have multiple guys in that backfield. There's a reason why you didn't go after anybody in the spring portal. So the potential of what you would be losing, the biggest concern for me is you already knew this is a position you were going to have to replace a ton of production, a ton of snaps, and a ton of, like experience on the field. Not to mention, like, that's not even getting into the fact of like how big Rocket Sanders was in several huge moments for you last year and the year before. Last year. So going into this season, you're fine, like having to put a lot of faith in Lenore Sellers running the football. It's, again, going to be a part of the game plan. And clearly, as you saw from last year where he had double-digit carries in every single game he played, like minus the game he was injured, all season. It's clearly going to be a part of the game plan regardless of who the OC is. But going from one of the top 5 running backs in the country out of the portal, a top 100 player in the portal, and going to, this is not anything negative towards Oscar Attaway because I like Oscar Attaway. But having only 3 scholarship running backs would be a nightmare. It would be a nightmare. You do not want to have to put anything more on your quarterback because they're already going to put a lot, and we all know that. So that's where the concern for me is, because if that ends up happening, then using the QB runs and stuff like that, and the Zion QB runs as a RPO option or to keep the defense on their heels, it feels a lot less like you're going to be able to use it as a decoy, as a way to keep them keep like defenses like I said, not stacking the box and being able to keep them a little bit more honest. It feels like you go away from being able to do that to where you're leaning more towards doing it out of necessity, and you don't ever want to have to be doing your play calls strictly out of necessity at any point of the season, let alone the entire season, because the NCAA didn't do the right thing and just make a kid eligible who, by all means, once again, should have had 0 issues being eligible at any point this time. I will close with this part. Less than 2 weeks ago, courts in New Jersey granted a temporary injunction in favor of Rutgers defensive back Jet Elad to play this year. Elad was also a member of the 2019 class, just like Faison, and also had a junior college pass. He saw snaps in 1 junior college season and 4 Division I years. I say it because it should again, it feels like that should be, at least like from a precedent standpoint, good news. But I'm trying not to get my hopes up because the logic and reason part of it are usually the last thing included when it comes to the NCAA. That is all for the Ruhsul Faison thing. We'll keep you updated. We'll see if there's anything that happens this weekend. I think what ends up ultimately happening out of this is that they make the right decision and he ends up being eligible sooner rather than later. But we'll have to wait and see. When we come back, we will talk about some other Gamecock sports and get a quick little whip around the athletic department. All right. Before we finish out today's show, I do want to give a quick shout out to another friend of ours, and that is Amazon Fire TV. Guys, I've been kind of bragging about this for the last couple weeks because it's pretty sick, especially if you already have an Amazon Fire Stick. But did you know your Amazon Fire TV can also be an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K device with no console even required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go and ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops and many, many more. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, movies, and anything else, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV that you already have. So with the latest technology and elevated playing, with the Amazon Fire Stick TV and with Wi-Fi 6 and 6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, much smoother, and more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. Also with 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney+, Max, and many, many more. I'll tell you what, head to Amazon.com today and go to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required, but available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. It is right at your fingertips, and it is right at Amazon TV/Fire TV Locked On. All right. Let's continue with the show and finish out today's episode. So obviously we talked about the Ruhsul Faison part. I do want to touch on a couple other things, just other sports related notes. I'm sure you guys have already heard this. The news that came out this week, it's not really news. I think we kind of expected it. But Colin Murray-Boyles, obviously he has entered himself in the NBA draft. But earlier this week, media asked Lamont Paris why there was still an open spot on the roster and what that was, if that was like signifying anything. And he said if for some reason he decides to come back, they have a spot ready and waiting for him. So slight small chance that I think that happens because of where he's slotted to go in the draft. It's right around like between 13 to 16 is everything I've seen. But if something happens and maybe he drops, something happens with his soccer, he doesn't show out as well at the what do you call it? Like the combine they're going to have here in a couple weeks. Or if he just decides he wants to play for another year in Columbia, there is a spot available for him, which I thought was very good foresight and smart from Lamont Paris, adding to an already really, really exciting momentum and roster that he's built going into next season. Also, softball beats Alabama on Wednesday night, advances to the next round and the quarterfinals of the SEC softball tournament over in Athens. Kind of weird it's being played in Athens. Don't want to jinx it, but there hasn't been any sort of bad weather yet. They should play the late game tomorrow. They played the late game today as well. All right, they will get number 2 seed Texas A&M, who has been very, very good. Also part of the teams that got a double bye. So they will face them tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. They've actually done pretty well at keeping everything moving without any delays, even on the scheduling standpoint. So that's been good. But that is what is going on with the softball tournament. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, talking about them going to the semifinals. It's a crazy competitive year in SEC softball, which is kind of the same every year, but this year especially, it's insane. Last but not least, baseball. Headed to Auburn this weekend, take on a top 10 team, a team that in some projections is projected to be a top 5 national seed in the tournament. Not a lot of hope for them winning a series, but we'll be here to recap it. Paul Mainieri, as of right now, still the coach. Said earlier this week on radio he was going to still be the coach, not going anywhere. We'll see how that goes. And we'll keep up with all of it. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Gamecocks. Hope you all have a great Thursday. And talk to y'all then.